My name is Elise Warren. I was 32 years old, and my mother-in-law removed my chair from a dinner table inside the restaurant I owned. She did it with both hands. No raised voice, no scene, just a small, careful smile as she lifted the walnut chair by its carved back, carried it 6 steps across the private dining room, and placed it against the wall beside the coat stand. "There," she said. "Now the table looks balanced." By the end of that night, her daughter had lost a deal she had spent 8 months pretending was real. My husband had lost the excuse he had used for 4 years, and Vivian Warren had learned that a person could be pushed away from a table without becoming powerless. She had no idea that every plate in front of her had been approved by me. She had no idea that the flowers, the wine, the staff schedule, the private room fee, and even the soft gold light above her head had passed through my office. Most of all, she had no idea why the executive chef stopped in the doorway, looked at the chair against the wall, and said one word that changed the air in the room. "Boss, but I need to back up, because the chair was not where this started. It was only the first thing they removed in public. There is a kind of truth that does not need to shout. It waits. It keeps the receipts. It watches people arrange the room exactly the way they want it, then lets them discover who owns the building." If you have ever been made to feel like an extra in a family that expected your loyalty, you will understand why I stayed quiet longer than I should have. Tell me where you are listening from, and tell me whether you would have stayed after someone removed your chair. Subscribe and stay with me, because what happened at that dinner began 18 months earlier on a wet Tuesday morning when I found a restaurant everyone else had already given up on. At that time, Alder and Ash did not look like the kind of place where anyone would celebrate an anniversary. It sat at the corner of Bell Street and Mercer Avenue in a brick building that had once been a bank. The carved stone above the entrance still showed the faint outline of the old bank name, though decades of rain had softened the letters. The front windows were tall and narrow. One had a crack running from the upper right corner almost to the middle, like a line drawn by someone with a shaking hand. Inside, the dining room smelled of burned coffee, old fryer oil, and wet wool. There were 14 empty tables. I counted them because I counted things when I needed to think. 14 tables, 28 chairs, 9 water glasses left upside down on the bar to dry. 3 light bulbs out above the back booth. One owner sitting at a corner table with both hands wrapped around a cup he was not drinking from. His name was Harold Finch. He was 67, though he looked older that day. His wife had died the previous spring, and the restaurant had gone downhill slowly enough that he had kept telling himself it would recover. It had not. I had been sent there by a small investment group to review the numbers and recommend whether the property was worth buying. My official title was Director of Operations for Northline Hospitality. That title sounded larger than the office I worked from, which was a narrow room above a bakery on Grant Street with a radiator that clicked all winter. Northline was not a famous company. It did not need to be. We bought troubled restaurants, fixed what could be fixed, closed what could not, and sold or kept them depending on the numbers. I had joined when there were only 4 people in the company. By the time I walked into Alder and Ash, there were 11 of us, and I had personally rebuilt the operating systems of 6 restaurants across 3 counties. None of this impressed Vivian Warren. As far as she knew, I helped with restaurant paperwork. That was the phrase she used. I had corrected her once. She had tilted her head, smiled, and said, "Of course, dear. Operations." That smile was how Vivian put a lid on a conversation. She never told you that you were wrong. She simply made your answer feel too small to continue discussing. Harold slid a folder across the table. The folder was blue, with a coffee stain shaped like a thumb near the lower corner. "Payroll is Friday," he said. "I can cover half." I opened the folder. There were unpaid vendor invoices, tax notices, equipment repair estimates, and a letter from the landlord. The restaurant owed $186,440. The walk-in refrigerator needed a new compressor. The hood system had failed inspection twice. 2 managers had left in 6 months. The executive chef had quit after Harold reduced his salary without warning. I looked toward the kitchen. A busser stood near the service station, folding napkins even though there were no guests. She was young, maybe 20. She kept glancing toward us. "How many people still work here?" I asked. 23 on paper," Harold said. 17 in reality. What does that mean? 6 stopped answering. I turned another page. The restaurant had not made a profit in 14 months. Still, something about the room held my attention. The bones were good. The old bank ceiling was high and coffered. The bar was solid oak. The kitchen was large enough to support twice the current volume. There was a small garden courtyard behind the building, hidden beneath dead vines and broken patio furniture. Most important, the remaining staff had stayed through missed shifts, late checks, and bad leadership. People did not stay that long for a building. They stayed for each other. I asked Harold to show me the kitchen. He stood slowly, as if expecting me to say there was no point. The kitchen was worse than the dining room. The dish machine leaked. One oven door would not close all the way. Labels were missing from half the containers in the lowboy refrigerator. A prep cook was chopping onions on a cutting board so warped it rocked under the knife. I counted again. 5 cracked floor tiles, 2 broken burners, 7 boxes of produce stacked too close to the back door. 1 employee meal simmering in a dented stock pot. It smelled like onions, bleach, and fear. Alder and Ash should have closed. Every number said so. I spent 4 hours there. Then I called my business partner Priya Deshmukh from my car. Rain struck the windshield hard enough that I had to turn the wipers to their highest setting. I watched Harold through the front window. He had returned to the corner table. "It is a mess," I told Priya. "That usually means no. It should mean no. But the lease is under market. The building has history. The staff has not fully collapsed. The neighborhood is changing. Debt? 186 plus repairs." She was quiet. Priya did not fill silence just because it was there. It was one of the reasons we worked well together. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I am thinking we do not buy it through Northline." "Then who buys it?" I watched Harold lift his cup, realize it was empty, and set it down again. "I do." That was the beginning. Not the chair, not the anniversary dinner, not the moment the chef called me boss. The beginning was a blue folder, a wet Tuesday, and a restaurant no one wanted. I bought Alder and Ash through a company called Mercer House LLC. Priya owned 15%. I owned the rest. We did not announce it. There was no article, no ribbon cutting, no photograph of me holding an oversized pair of scissors. Harold stayed on for 3 months to help with the transition. The staff was told there was a new ownership group. That was true. They were not told much more. I did know, but hide because I was ashamed. I stayed quiet because I wanted the restaurant judged by the food, the service, and the way it treated people. I had seen too many owners place their faces above the door before they had earned the trust inside the room. I wanted to earn it first. The first person I hired was Mateo Ruiz. Mateo was 41, broad-shouldered and serious in the kitchen. He had spent 12 years moving through hotel restaurants, private clubs, and one famous place in the city where the chef threw pans when he was angry. Mateo did not throw anything. He did not need to. When he looked at a station, people straightened it. I interviewed him at a small coffee shop near the train station. He arrived 8 minutes early, ordered black coffee, and placed a worn leather notebook on the table. "Why did you leave the hotel?" I asked. "The owner wanted the menu to look expensive instead of taste good." "That is direct." "You asked, what would you change at Alder and Ash?" "Everything except the room." I smiled. He did not. Then he opened the notebook. He had visited the restaurant twice without introducing himself. He had written down ticket times, staff movements, plate temperatures, and the number of times one server apologized to guests for delays. 17 apologies in 90 minutes, he said. "You counted?" "I count when something is wrong." That was when I knew. I hired him 3 days later. His salary was $94,000, which was more than Harold had paid the former chef. We added health insurance after 60 days. We offered paid sick time, replaced the broken equipment, closed for 12 days, and reopened with a smaller menu. Mateo kept the name. "Alder and Ash sounds like something that survived a fire," he said. At the time, I thought he meant the restaurant. Later, I understood he might have meant all of us. My husband Daniel knew I had invested in a business. He did not know the full details at first. That was not because I wanted to deceive him. It was because Daniel had a habit of sharing information with his mother before he had decided whether it was his to share. I learned that in the first year of our marriage, I had received a promotion and told him over dinner. Before dessert arrived, Vivian sent me a message. "Congratulations on your little step forward." Little. That word sat inside every compliment she gave me. Your little office, your little project, your little income, your little habits. Once at Christmas, she watched me wrap leftovers in foil and said, "You are so careful with little things." She meant money. Vivian did not know that I had grown up above my father's hardware store and had watched him lose it after a chain store opened 4 blocks away. She did not know I had learned the price of every item in our home because there had been months when the difference between $3.29 and $4.10 mattered. Daniel knew. He just did not always remember when. His mother was in the room. Daniel was not cruel. That was what made everything harder. Cruelty is clear. You can point to it. You can name it. Daniel was kind in private and quiet in public. When Vivian made a comment, he squeezed my hand beneath the table. When she excluded me, he apologized in the car. When she changed plans without telling me, he said she was set in her ways. That was his phrase for everything he did not want to challenge. Set in her ways. As if her behavior were furniture, as if no one could move it. When I met Daniel, I liked his calmness. He worked as a commercial insurance broker and had a steady, careful way of speaking. He never interrupted me. He remembered how I took my coffee. He called my father every Sunday after his knee surgery. He was also the youngest child in a family built around Vivian's approval. His father, Richard, had learned to disappear without leaving the room. He sat through dinners, read financial news on his phone, and spoke only when Vivian asked him a direct question. Daniel's older sister, Paige, had learned something else. She had learned to become whatever Vivian praised. When Vivian admired ambition, Paige launched a business. When Vivian admired motherhood, Paige began talking loudly about having children, though she was not even dating anyone seriously. When Vivian admired elegance, Paige changed her clothes, her hair, and the shape of her handwriting on place cards. Paige was 35 and ran a luxury catering company called Pearl Table Events. At least that was what she called it. From what I could tell, Pearl Table was mostly a website, a rented mailing address, and photographs taken at events other people had paid for. Still, Vivian described Paige as an entrepreneur. She described me as practical. The first time Vivian visited our apartment, she walked through the living room with her handbag held close to her side. Daniel and I lived in a 2-bedroom place on Larch Avenue. The building was clean, the rent was reasonable, and the morning light in the kitchen was beautiful. Vivian looked out the window at the pharmacy parking lot. "It is very sensible," she said. "Thank you," I replied. She turned toward me. "You do not mind living small?" Daniel laughed softly. "Mom." "What?" she said. "I mean it as a compliment. Elise is not driven by appearances." It was true. But Vivian had a way of making truth sound like a failure. At family dinners, she seated Paige beside her. Daniel sat across from them. I usually ended up near Richard, who ate quickly and checked the time. The seating never looked accidental. Vivian planned tables the way generals planned borders. At Thanksgiving, she placed my name card at the narrow end near the kitchen door. At Easter, she said there was no room for me in the family photograph because the photographer had arranged the original 4. At Richard's 65th birthday, she asked me to hold everyone's coats while they greeted the guests. Each moment was small enough to deny. Together, they formed a pattern. I saw it. Daniel saw it too. He just preferred to call it something else. The first time I told him directly, we were driving home from his parents' house. It was 10:42 p.m. The dashboard clock was 7 minutes fast. Rain had started, light at first, then heavier. I had spent the evening serving cake because Vivian had told the caterer I was good with practical tasks. "Your mother does not like me," I said. Daniel kept his eyes on the road. "She does." "She does not. She is difficult with everyone." She moved my place card after I sat down. She wanted Paige near the window for the photos. She asked me to stand while everyone else ate cake. He breathed out. "That was rude." "Yes. I will talk to her." "When?" "Soon." I counted the seconds before he changed the subject. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He asked whether I had remembered to call the plumber. That was Daniel. Not a liar. Not an enemy. A man who could recognize a wrong and still step around it. At Alder and Ash, I did not have to step around anything. The work was hard, but it was honest. The first 6 months nearly broke us. We replaced the hood system for $28,600. The walk-in compressor cost another $11,900. A water pipe burst above the dry storage room 3 days before our first Valentine's Day service. Mateo stood ankle-deep in cold water at 2 in the morning, moving bags of flour to higher shelves. I arrived in sweatpants and an old gray coat. We worked until sunrise. At 6:18 a.m., Mateo handed me a paper cup of coffee. "You know you could have sent someone," he said. I did. "Who?" "Me." That was the first time he called me boss. Not in front of guests, not as a performance, just one tired person acknowledging another in a flooded storage room. "Drink your coffee, boss," he said. I did. We reopened that evening. No one in the dining room knew what had happened. The candles were lit. The bread was warm. The servers moved calmly. Mateo sent out a roasted pear tart that became the most ordered dessert on the menu. That was what I loved about restaurants. The front of the room could look effortless because 20 people had solved 40 problems behind a swinging door. Family was supposed to work the same way. You handled small problems before they became public. You protected one another. You did not make the person you loved stand alone while everyone watched. I understood that better at work than I did at home. By the 8th month, Alder and Ash was stable. By the 10th, it was profitable. We did not become famous overnight. There was no miracle review. We improved one detail at a time. We shortened ticket times from 31 minutes to 18. We reduced food waste by 27%. We changed vendors for produce and paid invoices on time. We repainted the private dining room in a warm stone color and replaced the old ceiling fixture with a custom brass piece that cost more than I wanted to spend. Mateo chose the bulbs. "People look kinder in this light," he said. He was right. Even Vivian would look kind beneath that light. That thought would matter later. The staff slowly learned who I was. At first, I visited as the operations lead for the ownership group. That was true. Then there were too many decisions to hide the larger truth. I signed the insurance forms. I approved capital purchases. I sat in payroll meetings. I handled a dispute with the landlord over the rear access gate. No announcement was made, but people understood. Mateo knew from the first month. Our general manager, Tessa Monroe, knew by the second. The rest of the team knew by the time we reopened the courtyard. They did not treat me differently. That was the point. I still stacked chairs when needed. I still cleaned menus. I still stayed late after private events to count unopened wine bottles against the invoice. I did not want to be the kind of owner whose importance increased when the room was watching. The truth was simple. I had authority because I carried responsibility. Vivian understood authority differently. To her, power was being seen at the center. The first time she heard about Alder and Ash, she heard about it from Paige. Paige had gone there for drinks with 2 friends. She posted a photograph of herself beneath the brass light in the private room and wrote that she had discovered the city's best hidden treasure. The restaurant was not in the city. It was 12 miles outside it. But Paige liked the word city. 2 days later, Vivian mentioned the place at Sunday dinner. Paige found a lovely restaurant, she said. Very refined. Not at all what you would expect from that neighborhood. I looked down at my plate. Daniel knew I worked with a restaurant in that area. He did not connect the name. What is it called? He asked. Alder and Ash, Paige said. The chef came out to speak with us. He was very impressed with my company. I almost smiled. Mateo came out to speak with most tables when service allowed. It was one of the systems we had built. What did he say? I asked. Paige turned toward me, surprised I had entered the conversation. He said the menu changes seasonally. That sounds impressive, I said. She missed the point. Vivian lifted her wine. Paige may partner with them. I looked at Paige. A formal partnership? We are discussing possibilities. What kind? Paige set down her glass. High-level ones. Richard cleared his throat. Daniel reached for the bread. Vivian smiled at me. Elise, not everyone likes to speak about work in detail at the dinner table. That sentence should have been ordinary. It was not. It was a reminder. Paige's work was worthy of attention. Mine was something to contain. I let it pass. At that point, Pearl Table had no relationship with Alder and Ash. I knew because every vendor, event, planner, and partnership request came through Tessa or me. Paige had not submitted anything. She had not even asked. I could have corrected her. I could have said, I own that restaurant. I could have watched the room change in real time. But something stopped me. Not fear, curiosity. I wanted to see how far a person would go when she believed no one in the room could check her story. So I asked one more question. Who are you discussing it with? The right people, Paige said. Vivian gave me a soft, warning look. Paige leaned back in her chair. You would probably like it there, Elise. It is expensive, but they have simpler things on the menu. Daniel looked at me then. He saw the small change in my face. Not anger, a decision. He touched my knee beneath the table. I moved my leg away. That night, I asked Tessa whether Paige Warren had contacted the restaurant. Tessa searched the reservation system and event email. She booked a table for 3, she said. No partnership request. Did she speak to Mateo? For about 4 minutes. What about? Tessa smiled. She asked if we would donate a private dinner to a lifestyle event she wants to host. What did he say? He told her to email me. Did she? No. I thanked her and ended the call. Daniel was brushing his teeth when I entered the bathroom. Your sister told everyone she may partner with Alder and Ash, I said. He rinsed his mouth. Paige gets excited. She lied. That is a strong word. It is the correct one. She might be planning to reach out. That is not what she said. Daniel dried his hands. Why does this matter so much? I looked at him through the mirror. Because it was my restaurant. Because she had borrowed its reputation without permission. Because his mother had used the lie to place Paige above me again. Because Daniel was asking why dishonesty mattered instead of asking why his sister had been dishonest. I did not say any of those things. Not yet. I work with that restaurant, I said. He nodded. I know. You do not know as much as you think. He turned. What does that mean? It means you should be careful before defending a story you have not checked. He stared at me for 2 seconds, then 3. I do not want to fight, he said. Neither did I. That was another difference between us. Daniel avoided conflict because it made him uncomfortable. I avoided it until I had enough information to end it. If you are listening to this and thinking I should have told them everything right then, I understand. You can feel the pressure building because you already know where that chair ends up. Comment the word chair if you believe a seat at a table should never have to be earned through silence. Stay with me because the first lie about Alder and Ash was small. The next one came with a price attached to it. 3 weeks after that dinner, Vivian invited us to brunch. She used the word invited, though she had already made the reservation and told Daniel what time we would arrive. The brunch was at the country club where Richard had been a member for 22 years. I had been there 6 times. Each visit felt like entering a house where someone had just finished discussing you. The dining room had pale green walls, silver water pitchers, and carpet thick enough to hide footsteps. A piano played near the windows, though no one sat at it. Recorded music. Even the piano was pretending. Vivian wore cream, Paige wore pale blue. Richard wore the same navy jacket he wore to every family event. I wore black trousers and a rust-colored blouse. Vivian looked at the blouse. Autumn already? It is October, I said. She smiled. Of course. We sat. There were 5 place settings. Mine was at the end. I counted the chairs automatically. 1 beside Vivian, 1 beside Richard, 1 beside Paige, 1 across from Paige for Daniel, 1 at the corner near the service door for me. The table was round. There should not have been a corner. Vivian had created one by shifting my chair away from the table. I pulled it closer. She noticed. Nothing was said until the coffee arrived. Then Paige opened a leather portfolio and placed 3 printed pages beside her plate. I have an opportunity, she said. Vivian's face changed immediately. Pride softened it. What kind? Daniel asked. A growth opportunity. She pushed the pages toward him. Pearl Table Events was seeking $240,000 in investment to expand into luxury private dining, corporate events, and destination celebrations. The proposal listed Alder and Ash under strategic hospitality relationships. I did not touch the paper. Daniel read the first page. This is serious, he said. It is, Paige replied. Vivian looked at me. Elise, this may be a little outside your area. I folded my napkin once. Restaurant partnerships are inside my area. Paperwork, she said gently. This is expansion. Paige gave a quick laugh. I looked at the proposal again. The Alder and Ash logo was printed on the second page. It was our logo. The version we used only on internal event documents. The spacing was wrong because it had been copied from a PDF screenshot, but it was ours. I felt something inside me become very still. Where did you get this? I asked. Paige sipped her coffee. From my conversations. With whom? Elise. She said my name as if I were a child reaching for something sharp. It is a reasonable question, I said. Vivian placed her hand over the proposal. This is Paige's moment. No, I said. This is a document using a restaurant's name. Richard looked up. Daniel shifted in his seat. Paige smiled, but the smile held tension now. I have relationships you are not aware of. Name 1. The silence lasted 6 seconds. I counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Vivian broke it. Some people do not understand how business works at this level. There it was. Not yet the exact cruel line that would follow us to the private dining room, but close enough to hear its shape. Some people, not everyone, not you. Paige pulled the pages back toward her. I do not need to prove my business to Elise. If you are asking my husband for money, you do. Daniel looked at me. My money? Vivian's expression tightened. Our money, Paige said quickly. Family money. I turned to Daniel. Were you planning to invest? He looked at his mother, then at Paige. We had a conversation. When? Last week. How much? No amount was decided. Paige tapped the proposal. The initial participation would be $100,000. I looked at Daniel. He had not told me. We had joint savings. We had separate retirement accounts, but large financial decisions were supposed to be discussed. Supposed to be. From where? I asked. Daniel lowered his voice. Elise, not here. That answers the question. Vivian sat straighter. You are embarrassing him. No, I am asking him. This is exactly why some matters should remain within the family. I looked at her. I am his wife. No one spoke. The server approached with a tray, sensed the tension, and stepped back. Vivian reached for her water glass. Of course you are. The words were correct. The tone removed me from them. Daniel placed the proposal face down. We are not deciding anything today. Paige's mouth tightened. You told me you were interested. I said I would review it. You said you believed in me. I do. Then why are you letting her turn this into something ugly? Her. Not Elise. Her. I watched Daniel. This was one of those moments that later become simple in memory. A clean fork in the road. One direction costs courage. The other costs trust. Daniel chose comfort. Let us all calm down, he said. All, as if we had each contributed equally. I stood. Vivian's eyes moved to me. Where are you going? Back to work. We have not ordered. I am not hungry. She gave a small sigh. Elise, walking away every time you feel out of place will not help you belong. I looked at the chair she had placed slightly apart from the table. Then I looked at her. I did not feel out of place until you arranged it. I left. Daniel followed me to the lobby. His shoes struck the marble floor behind me. Elise. I kept walking. Elise, stop. I stopped beside a large arrangement of white lilies that smelled too sweet. He lowered his voice. You made that worse. I made it visible. You attacked Paige. I asked who authorized her to use a company logo. She is trying to build something. So am I. He looked confused. That hurt more than anger would have. What does that mean? It means you still do not know what I do. I know what you do. No. You know the version your mother repeats. He glanced toward the dining room. This is not about Mom. It is always about your mother when you are afraid to answer me. His face changed. That is unfair. Is it? He put both hands in his coat pockets. I was going to tell you about the investment. When? Before I did anything. You discussed $100,000 without me. I said I was interested. Paige is my sister. And I am your wife. He looked away. The lilies filled the silence between us. I counted 10 petals on the nearest flower, because if I counted his excuses, I knew I would stop being calm. Finally, he said, Can we talk at home? I nodded. We did talk at home. For 2 hours. Then again the next morning. Daniel apologized for not telling me. He promised he would not invest without reviewing the proposal with me. He said he understood why the use of Alder and Ash's logo bothered me. He did not ask why I knew the logo so well. That should have told me something. He wanted the conflict resolved, not understood. I contacted our attorney, Simone Keller, that afternoon. Simone was 46 and had the calmest voice of anyone I knew. She wore bright glasses, carried a yellow legal pad, and never used 2 words when one would do. I sent her a copy of Paige's proposal. Did you authorize this? She asked. No. Did anyone at the restaurant? No. Do you want a cease and desist letter? Not yet. Why? I want to know where she got the internal logo. Simone was quiet. You think someone shared it? I think she took it from something. Can you prove that? Not yet. Then collect facts before you collect anger. That was Simone. No speeches, just clean instructions. I asked Tessa to review recent private event inquiries. She found an email from Paige sent under a different company address. In it, Paige asked for a sample event packet for a potential family celebration. Tessa had sent her the standard packet. The internal logo appeared on page 4. That was where she got it. Paige had cropped it, placed it in her investment proposal, and listed the restaurant as a strategic relationship. Not a crime by itself. Not yet. But it was a lie dressed like a partnership. I told Simone to prepare a draft notice and hold it. Then I went back to work. Alder and Ash was entering its busiest season. We had booked holiday dinners, 2 small weddings, a retirement party, and a charity auction. The courtyard had closed for winter, but Mateo had created a menu built around roasted squash, short ribs, brown butter, and apples from a farm 30 miles north. I spent more time at the restaurant. Daniel noticed. You are never home before 9, he said one Thursday. It is seasonal. You said that last month. It was true last month, too. He leaned against the kitchen counter in our apartment. Are you avoiding me? I placed my keys in the ceramic bowl near the door. No, it was not Inte. Rely true. I was avoiding the version of our home where every difficult conversation ended with Daniel asking for time. He needed time to think, time to speak to his mother, time to understand Paige, time to decide how he felt. Meanwhile, decisions were being made around me. How is the restaurant? He asked. Better? Which restaurant? I looked at him. Alder and Ash. He blinked. That is the one Paige likes. Yes. You never told me that was your project. I have mentioned it. Not by name. I did the night she spoke about it. He frowned, trying to remember. I watched the moment return to him. You do not know as much as you think. What exactly do you do there? He asked. I had waited a long time for that question. Too long. I could have answered completely. Instead, I said, more than paperwork. He rubbed the back of his neck. Elise. What? Why are you making this mysterious? Why did it take your sister using the restaurant's name for you to become curious? He looked tired. So this is punishment. No. It feels like it. Being asked to notice me feels like punishment? That is not what I said. It is what you keep showing me. He walked to the window. Outside, headlights moved across the pharmacy parking lot. We have not been good lately, he said. No. I miss you. I believed him. That was the problem. Love can be real and still not be enough to protect a marriage from repeated silence. I stepped closer. Then stand beside me when your family is in the room. He turned. I do. You stand near me. That is not the same thing. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, he did not promise to speak to Vivian. He simply nodded. I wanted to believe that meant something. For a while, it did. Daniel refused Paige's investment request. He told her the proposal needed independent review and that he would not use joint funds without my agreement. Paige called him selfish. Vivian called him confused. Richard sent him a text that said, "Keep peace if you can." Daniel showed me the message. What does that even mean? He asked. It means your father wants you to do what he did. Which is? Whatever stops your mother from being upset. Daniel looked at the phone for a long time, then he put it face down. The next Sunday, we did not attend dinner at his parents' house. Vivian called twice. Paige sent 4 messages. Daniel answered none of them. I counted that as progress. 1 missed dinner, 2 missed calls, 4 unanswered messages, 7 quiet days. Then Christmas came. Vivian hosted Christmas Eve every year. Attendance was treated as both tradition and proof of loyalty. Her house stood on Hawthorne Ridge behind stone gates and a line of bare maple trees. It had 6 bedrooms, though only 2 had ever been used regularly. The formal dining room held a table built for 14. There were 9 guests that year. Still, when Daniel and I arrived, there were only 8 place settings. I noticed before I removed my coat. Vivian came into the entry hall wearing dark green velvet. Elise, she said, that blouse is festive. It was the same rust-colored blouse she had criticized at brunch. I wore it on purpose. Merry Christmas, Vivian. She kissed the air beside my cheek. Daniel looked toward the dining room. Mom, where is Elise sitting? Vivian followed his eyes. Oh. 1 syllable. Perfectly performed. The florist placed a large arrangement at the center, and it changed the table balance. The table seats 14, Daniel said. Yes, but comfortably? He stared at her. I waited. This was the moment I had asked him to meet. Vivian lifted one shoulder. Elise may sit with the younger cousins in the breakfast room. There were no younger cousins. There were 2 college-age nephews, both seated at the main table. Daniel's jaw tightened. She is sitting with me. Vivian's smile remained. Daniel, there is no need to create tension. You created it. The room went still. Richard stood near the fireplace holding a glass of red wine. Paige was arranging gifts beneath the tree. Both of them looked up. Vivian lowered her voice. Do not speak to me that way in my home. Then do not disrespect my wife in front of me. My heart beat once, hard, not because he had raised his voice. He had not. Because he had finally said it where she could hear. Vivian looked at me. The blame in her eyes was immediate. I had changed him. I had made him difficult. I had brought conflict into her home. She turned back to Daniel. There is a chair in the study. I will get it, he said. He did. He carried it into the dining room and placed it beside his. The chair did not match the table. Its seat was lower. Its wood was darker. One leg was slightly shorter than the others. I sat in it anyway. For the first 20 minutes, no one spoke about what had happened. Then Paige raised her glass and announced that Pearl Table had secured an exciting hospitality relationship for the new year. I felt Daniel go still beside me. With whom? Richard asked. Paige smiled. Alder and Ash. There it was again. Larger this time, more confident. Vivian looked pleased. Daniel turned to me. I placed my fork down. What relationship? I asked. Paige did not look at me. Event collaboration. Signed by whom? Her eyes moved toward mine. You really do have trouble letting other people have good news. I asked who signed it. Vivian set down her wine. Some people do not belong in every conversation, Elise. The room became very quiet. That was the line. The cruel one. The sentence that would return again and again until the night I gave it back to her. Some people do not belong in every conversation. I looked at Vivian, then at Paige, and at Daniel. He had a choice again. This time, he did not touch my knee. He did not ask everyone to calm down. He said, "Answer her." Paige laughed. Why? Because you are using the name of a business she works with. Vivian's face hardened. This is absurd. No, Daniel said. It is a question. Paige looked around the table, searching for support. Richard studied his plate. One of the nephews reached for his water and missed the glass slightly. I counted 3 breaths before Paige answered. It is preliminary. So it is not signed, I said. It is understood. By whom? The chef knows me. Knowing your name is not a partnership. You are jealous. No, you are. You cannot stand that I built something people respect. I thought of the blue folder, the flooded storage room, the 17 employees who had stayed when there was no reason to stay, the invoices I had paid from my own account during the first month, the nights Matteo and I rebuilt the menu line by line. You are right about one thing, I said. Respect has to be built. Paige leaned forward. And what have you built? Daniel turned toward me. Vivian waited. Richard finally looked up. I could have told them. The words were there. I own Alder and Ash. 5 words. Simple, clean. But before I could speak, my phone vibrated in my lap. A message from Tessa. Urgent. Paige Warren just emailed 3 prospective clients claiming Pearl Table is our exclusive external event partner. One client forwarded it to us. Call when you can. I read it twice. Then I locked my phone. This had moved beyond family performance. Paige was using Alder and Ash to attract paying clients. The facts had changed. So did my decision. I did not reveal myself. I looked at Paige and said, "Be careful." She smiled. Is that a threat? No. I picked up my wine. It is advice. Vivian gave a short laugh. From someone who handles paperwork. Daniel looked at me. This time he heard it. Not the words. The contempt beneath them. He pushed his chair back. We are leaving. Vivian stared at him. Dinner has not been served. It has for us. That makes no sense. It does to me. He stood. I remained seated for 2 seconds. Then 3. I wanted to see whether he would change his mind. He did not. He took my coat from the entry hall. We left before the main course. In the car, neither of us spoke until we reached the bottom of Hawthorne Ridge. Then Daniel said, "Tell me." I looked out the window. Tell you what? Everything about Alder and Ash. The road curved ahead of us. Bare trees flashed through the headlights. Why now? Because I should have asked before. Yes. And because I think Paige is lying. She is. What is the truth? I turned toward him. The truth is that I bought the restaurant 18 months ago. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. You what? I own 85% of Mercer House LLC. Mercer House owns Alder and Ash. He stared ahead. The car slowed slightly. You own it? Yes. The whole restaurant? Yes. Why did you not tell me? I told you I invested in a business. You did not say you bought a restaurant. You told your mother about my last promotion before I finished dessert. That was years ago. It taught me something. He took the next exit and pulled into the empty parking lot of a closed garden center. The car stopped beneath a yellow security light. Daniel turned fully toward me. How long were you going to keep this from me? I was waiting for you to become interested in my work without needing it to become useful to your family. That is not fair. No, it is not. He stared at me. I let the silence stay. Finally, he said, Paige used your logo. Yes. She claimed a partnership. Yes. And you knew at brunch. Yes. Why did you not stop her? I asked questions. That is not the same. I needed evidence. For what? To understand whether she was exaggerating to family or lying to clients. His face changed. What did she do? I showed him Tessa's message. He read it once, then again. Oh God. No. I took the phone back. This is not a disaster, it is a record. She could be sued. She could be warned. Are you going to? Yes. When? After Simone reviews everything in the morning. He looked at me. Who is Simone? Our attorney. He leaned back against the seat. For several seconds, the only sound was the engine. You have an attorney? Yes. A business partner? Yes. A staff? Yes. A restaurant? Yes. He laughed once, but there was no humor in it. I do not know my own wife. I looked at him. You knew me. You stopped asking questions. The security light buzzed above us. Daniel covered his face with both hands. When he lowered them, his eyes were wet. I am sorry. I believed him. That did not erase anything. Tomorrow, I said, I will show you the ownership documents, the operating reports, and the emails. You can ask whatever you want. He nodded. And Paige? She will receive a formal notice. What about my mother? What about her? She is going to say you humiliated Paige. I have not done anything to Paige. Mom will not see it that way. I looked through the windshield at the dark garden center. Rows of empty carts were chained together near the entrance. That is your mother's problem. He flinched slightly. Not because I was cruel, because I was done carrying what belonged to her. The next morning, Daniel came with me to Alder and Ash. It was December 26th. The restaurant was closed until dinner, but the prep team was already inside. Snow had started before dawn, light enough to melt on the pavement. Daniel stood beneath the old stone bank letters and looked up at the building. You own this, he said. I do. The front door opened before I reached for my key. Matteo stepped outside wearing a black apron and holding a delivery invoice. Merry Christmas, boss, he said. Then he looked at Daniel. You must be the husband. Daniel glanced at me. I almost smiled. Matteo, this is Daniel. Daniel, our executive chef, Matteo Ruiz. They shook hands. Matteo did not ask why Daniel looked stunned. He simply held the door open. Inside, Alder and Ash smelled of coffee, fresh bread, and cedar polish. The dining room was empty. Morning light fell across the tables. Daniel walked slowly. He noticed everything: the brass fixture, the framed menu from opening week, the staff photograph near the kitchen, the small plaque beside the bar that read Mercer House Hospitality. Tessa came down the stairs carrying a laptop. "Morning, Elise." She saw Daniel. "This must be Daniel." He looked at me again. Everyone knew who he was. He knew almost nothing about them. That realization embarrassed him more than any accusation could have. We went upstairs to my office. It was larger than the room above the bakery, but not by much. There was one desk, 2 chairs, a metal filing cabinet, and a narrow window overlooking Mercer Avenue. On the shelf behind the desk sat the blue folder Harold had given me. I kept it there. Not because I needed the documents, because I never wanted to forget what the restaurant had looked like when no one believed it could survive. Daniel picked it up. "What is this?" "The beginning." I opened my laptop and showed him everything. The purchase agreement, the debt settlement, the repair invoices, the ownership structure, the monthly reports, the staff insurance plan, the emails from Paige, the client message using our name. He read quietly for almost an hour. At one point, he stopped at the payroll summary. "You covered payroll personally?" "Twice." "How much?" $38,000 the first time, 41 the second. He sat back. "Why did you not tell me?" "I did not need permission." "That is not what I meant." "I know." He looked toward the shelf. "You built this while my family treated you like you had no ambition." "Yes." "And you let them." "No." I closed the laptop. I observed them. There was a difference. Silence can be surrender. It can also be evidence gathering. By noon, Simone had prepared the notice. Paige was ordered to stop using the Alder and Ash name, logo, photographs, menus, or implied partnership in any business material. She was required to contact the 3 prospective clients and correct the false claim within 48 hours. The notice was firm. Not cruel. Truth is a scalpel, not a hammer. It should remove the lie without destroying everything around it. I approved the letter. Simone sent it by email and certified mail. Paige called Daniel 11 minutes later, then again, then twice more. 4 calls, 3 messages, 1 voicemail. He did not answer until that evening. I sat about across from him at our kitchen table while he put the phone on speaker. Paige did not say hello. "What did you tell her?" Daniel looked at me. "The truth. She is threatening me. She sent a legal notice. She is trying to ruin my company. You used her restaurant's name. She never told anyone it was hers. That does not make it yours." Paige was silent, then her voice sharpened. "Mom was right about her." "What did Mom say?" "That Elise has been waiting for a chance to make us feel small." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so exact. Vivian believed dignity was humiliation when it belonged to someone else. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "No one is making you feel small. She sent a lawyer after me. You lied to clients. I was building a relationship. You were pretending one existed. She is your wife, not your owner." Daniel's eyes lifted toward mine. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he said, "Do not speak about her that way." Paige gave a hard breath. "You have changed." "Yes," he said. "I hope so." She ended the call. I looked at him. He placed the phone on the table. "That was late," he said. "What was?" "Standing beside you." I did not answer. He looked down. "But it was not nothing." "No," I said. "It was not nothing." That was the mercy I could give him then. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Recognition. He had finally carried 1 chair into the room. He still had to decide whether he would sit in it when Vivian told him to move. Vivian did not call me that day. She called Daniel 3 times before noon, once at 2:17 p.m., twice after dinner. He answered the last call in the living room while I sat at the kitchen counter reviewing a wine invoice. I heard only his side at first. No. A pause. That is not what happened. Another pause. No, Mom. Paige used the restaurant's name without permission. His voice stayed level, but his left hand tightened around the phone. I am not choosing sides. That sentence made me look up. He listened for almost a minute. Then he said, I am choosing the truth. There was a difference between those two statements. The first was defensive. The second cost him something. He ended the call and placed the phone on the coffee table. What did she say? I asked. He sat back. That you planned this. Planned what? To embarrass Paige at Christmas. I did not know she would announce a false partnership. She says you waited because you wanted everyone to hear it. I did not reveal anything. I told her that. And? She said keeping the restaurant secret was manipulative. I closed the invoice. Did you tell her why I kept it private? I tried. That was not my question. He looked toward me. Yes. I waited. What did you say? I said that every time you shared good news, she made it smaller. The room became very quiet. I did not expect him to say it set clearly. What did she say? That she has always supported you. I almost smiled. Of course. Daniel looked tired. She said she encouraged your independence. That is one word for it. She cried. Did she? He nodded. Vivian's tears were never loud. They arrived with perfect timing and no damage to her makeup. She lowered her voice, pressed 2 fingers beneath one eye, and spoke about how hard she had tried. The tears were not about pain, they were about control slipping. What happened after she cried? I asked. She said you were isolating me from the family. There it was. I had expected it. People who build power through access often call boundaries isolation. What did you tell her? That I would call tomorrow. I looked back at the invoice. Daniel stood. I did not agree with her. You delayed the argument. Yes. Why? Because I did not know what to say. You knew enough. He walked toward the kitchen. I am trying. I know. He stopped across from me. That did not sound kind. It was not unkind. He studied my face. I had learned that people often heard firmness as cruelty when they were used to you making room for their comfort. I do see what she does now, he said. You saw it before. I did not understand it. You understood enough to apologize in the car. He looked down. That landed. I did not enjoy it. That mattered too. I was not trying to win against Daniel. I was trying to stop losing myself beside him. He sat on the stool across from me. What happens now? He asked. With Paige? With all of it. I folded the invoice along its existing crease. Paige corrects the false claims. If she does, the matter ends there. And my mother? She decides whether she wants a relationship with me or control over me. That sounds final. It is clear. He rubbed his thumb against the edge of the counter. She will not like clear. No. She will say it is an ultimatum. It is a boundary. What is the difference? An ultimatum controls someone else's choice. A boundary controls mine. He nodded slowly. And what is your boundary? I will not attend events where I'm humiliated and expected to pretend it was an accident. His eyes moved toward mine. Christmas. Christmas. Brunch, Easter, Richard's birthday, the family photograph, the place cards. He went still. I had never listed them in one breath. He had heard each story separately. One event, one comment, one apology. Patterns become harder to deny when they are placed side by side. How long have you been keeping track? He asked. I did not need a notebook. That is not what I meant. I know. He stared at the floor. I thought if I handled it privately, it would stop. You handled me privately. His head lifted. What? You apologized to me. You explained her to me. You asked me to be patient. You never handled her. He opened his mouth, then closed it. That was the most honest thing he did that evening. He had no defense. The next afternoon, Paige emailed Tessa. The message was 6 lines long. She claimed there had been a misunderstanding. She said her use of the Alder and Ash name had been aspirational and not intended to suggest a formal agreement. She promised to correct the language with potential clients. She did not apologize. She did not need to. Apologies are useful only when they contain responsibility. I asked Tessa to confirm the corrections. 2 of the 3 clients received updated emails. The third did not. His name was Aaron Feld. He owned a chain of dental practices and was planning a retirement dinner for 120 guests. Paige had told him Pearl Table could provide an exclusive Alder and Ash menu at an outside venue. That arrangement would have been impossible. We did not offer off-site catering. Matteo hated the idea of food sitting in transport boxes. Soup travels, he once told me. Dignity does not. I had not understood the sentence, but I remembered it. Aaron forwarded Paige's original proposal to Tessa after our attorney contacted him. The proposal included menu prices, staff rates, rental fees, and a line claiming that executive chef Matteo Ruiz would personally supervise the event. Matteo had never met Aaron. He had spoken to Paige for 4 minutes. The lie was no longer vague. It had numbers. Numbers make a falsehood look professional. They also make it easier to prove. Simone called me at 9:05 the next morning. She has exposed herself to a contract claim, she said. There is no signed agreement. Not yet. But Mr. Feld paid a deposit. I stood from my desk. To Paige? $7,500. For our services? For what she described as a joint culinary package. I looked through the office window at Mercer Avenue. A delivery truck blocked half the street. A man in a red hat pulled boxes onto the sidewalk. Did she use our bank information? No, her own. Then it is her problem. It becomes your problem if the client believes your restaurant is involved. He does now? He did. That is why he paid. I sat again. What do you recommend? A stronger letter, direct contact with the client, a written statement that no relationship exists. If she refunds the deposit immediately, we can avoid escalation. And if she does not? Then Mr. Feld decides what he wants to do. Simone paused. Elise. Yes? Your husband's sister is either desperate or reckless. Probably both. Do not underestimate what desperate people will say when documentation corners them. I won't. Good. She ended the call. I went downstairs. Matteo stood at the pass, tasting a sauce from the tip of a spoon. The lunch team moved around him. I waited until he looked up. Do you have a minute? He set down the spoon. Office? No. Walk with me. We went through the rear door into the courtyard. Winter had stripped the vines from the brick walls. The metal tables were stacked beneath gray covers. A thin layer of ice rested along the edge of the fountain. Matteo folded his arms. What happened? Paige accepted a deposit from a client for an event using your name in our menu. His face did not change. That was how I knew he was angry. How much? $7,500. For what? An off-site retirement dinner. 120 people. No. I know. My name? Yes. He looked toward the fountain. A single leaf had frozen into the water. What does she want? He asked. Credibility. She cannot borrow that. No. He turned toward me. What do you need from me? Confirmation that you did not authorize any event or menu. You have it. In writing. You will have it. He started toward the door, then stopped. Boss? Yes? If she comes here? She is not allowed past the host stand without Tessa or me. What if she brings family? I knew what he meant. Vivian. Same rule. He nodded once. There was no drama in it, only procedure. That afternoon, Paige refunded Aaron Feld. She also sent the correction to the third client. Legally, the immediate problem ended. Inside the family it grew. Vivian sent a group message at 6:44 p.m. It included Daniel, Paige, Richard, and me. This family has survived difficult seasons because we value loyalty, privacy, and grace. I hope everyone can remember that professional disagreements should never be used to damage family relationships. I will not participate in hostility. I read it twice. Then I set the phone down. Daniel was beside me on the sofa. "She means you," he said. "Yes." "Do you want me to answer?" "What would you say?" "That Paige was wrong." "Then say it because it is true, not because you think I need you to." He picked up his phone. For a full minute, he typed and erased. Then he sent, "Paige used a business name and accepted money for services she was not authorized to provide. Elise handled it privately and gave Paige a chance to correct it. That is not hostility. Please stop blaming Elise for something she did not cause." The message showed as read by all 3 family members within 2 minutes. Richard replied first. "We should discuss this calmly." Paige replied next. "I made one mistake and Elise treated me like a criminal." Vivian did not reply. The absence was deliberate. Daniel watched the screen. "She's going to call Dad," he said. "She probably already has." 3 minutes later, Richard called. Daniel answered on speaker. His father's voice was low. "I think this has gone far enough." Daniel looked at me. "What does that mean?" "It means your mother is very upset. Paige used Elise's company. She has corrected it. Because Elise's lawyer contacted her. Yes, and now it is corrected." "So what are you asking?" Richard was silent. That was his method. He did not make demands directly. He waited until someone else filled the empty space. Daniel did not. 10 seconds passed. Then 15. Finally, Richard said, "Your mother would like an apology." "From whom?" "Elise." I almost admired the boldness. Daniel's face changed. "For what?" "For involving an attorney. Dad, Paige took money. She returned it. Because she was caught. Elise could have called her. She asked Paige twice where the partnership came from. That was at family dinner. And Paige lied at family dinner." Richard sighed. "Daniel, there are ways to handle these things." "Yes," Daniel said. "Legally and clearly." His father's voice hardened. "Do not speak to me like I am a client." "Then do not ask me to negotiate my wife's dignity." The sentence surprised all 3 of us. Richard did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was softer. "Your mother is afraid of losing you." "No, she's afraid I will stop agreeing." "That is not fair." "Maybe." Daniel looked at me. "But it is true." Richard breathed out. "You are making this larger than it needs to be." "No. We made it smaller for years." There was a long silence. Then Richard said, "I will speak to your mother." "That is what you always say." His father ended the call. Daniel sat with the phone in his hand. I did not praise him. He did not need a reward for doing what should have been normal. Still, I placed my hand over his. He looked at me. "Thank you," I said. He nodded. That evening felt like the beginning of something better. It was not. It was only a break in the weather. The next family event was Vivian's birthday in February. She turned 63. Usually, she hosted a dinner at Hawthorne Ridge. That year, she announced she wanted something small and peaceful. The invitation came by email. Daniel received it. I did not. He noticed before I did. "My name is the only one on this," he said. We were eating breakfast. I was standing at the stove, turning an omelet. Maybe she sent mine separately. She did not. "How do you know?" "Because it says, Daniel, I hope you can come alone." I turned off the burner. He handed me the phone. The message was short. "Daniel, I am keeping my birthday simple this year. Only immediate family. I hope you can come alone and let us have one evening without tension. Immediate family." 4 years of marriage erased in 2 words. Daniel waited. "What do you want to do?" he asked. The question mattered. A year earlier, he would have told me he needed to attend. 6 months earlier, he would have asked whether I minded. Now he asked what I wanted. "I want you to decide," I said. That feels like a test. It is not. It feels like one. Then do not make me responsible for the answer. He read the invitation again. I am not going. I returned to the stove. You do not have to stay home for me. I am not. I looked over my shoulder. I am staying home for me, he said. That was better. He emailed Vivian. I will not attend an event that excludes my wife. I love you and hope you have a good birthday, but Elise is my immediate family. Vivian did not respond. Paige did. You are breaking Mom's heart. Daniel showed me the message. He did not answer it. On Vivian's birthday, we ate dinner at Alder and Ash, not in the private room. At a small table near the front window, Mateo sent out a mushroom tart we had not ordered. Tessa brought 2 glasses of sparkling wine. Daniel looked around the dining room as though he were seeing it for the first time, though he had visited several times since Christmas. The room was full. At table 7, a couple shared dessert. At the bar, 3 nurses in blue scrubs laughed over fries. Near the fireplace, an older man unfolded a birthday card while his grandchildren watched. This place feels happy, Daniel said. It is not always. No? No restaurant is always happy. What does it feel like when it is bad? Like everyone is trying not to drop the same plate. He smiled. That sounds like my family. Your family drops the plate and blames the floor. He laughed. Then his face became serious. I am sorry I missed all of this. I knew he did not mean the restaurant. He meant me. You are here now, I said. It was not full forgiveness, but it was a door left unlocked. After dinner, we walked through the kitchen. Mateo was at the pass. He nodded toward Daniel. Good choice tonight. Daniel looked at him. About dinner? About the tart. Mateo turned back to the line. Daniel laughed. I did too. For a few weeks, things became quiet. Vivian did not invite us anywhere. Paige stopped posting about Alder and Ash. Richard sent Daniel occasional messages about golf, interest rates, and the weather. No one apologized. The silence was not peace. It was a hallway between rooms. In March, I learned that Paige's business was in worse condition than I had realized. The information came from Priya. She entered my office one Monday morning carrying 2 coffees and a printed report. Priya was 38, precise, and incapable of entering a room without understanding its temperature. You look calm, she said. I am working. That is not what I said. She placed a coffee beside me. What happened? Nothing. She sat. Elise. I looked at the report. What is that? Public filings. 4. Pearl Table events. I leaned back. Why were you looking? I was reviewing potential event vendors for the hotel project. Her company appeared in a search. Priya slid the pages across the desk. Pearl Table had 2 outstanding judgments from vendors. One for $18,300, another for $9,640. There was also a tax lien filed 3 months earlier. I read the numbers. Does Daniel know? Do you? I do now. Then probably not. I turned the page. Paige's company had listed Alder and Ash as a partner in a financing application filed before Simone's notice. The application had been denied. Where did you get this? The lender included the partnership claim in a public complaint after she disputed the denial. I felt the same stillness return. Is our logo attached? No, just the name. Send it to Simone. Priya watched me. Family? Yes. She gave one slow nod. Do you want advice? Not yet. Good. I did not want to give it. She stood. At the door, she stopped. Your husband knows you own the restaurant now? Yes. How did that go? Poorly. Then better. That sounds like marriage. It sounds like repair. Priya looked at me. Those are not always the same thing. Then she left. Simone reviewed the filing. Because the financing application had already been denied, there was no immediate financial exposure to us. Still, it proved a pattern. Paige had used Alder and Ash's name more than once. She had not exaggerated impulsively over wine. She had built a story around our reputation. I called Daniel that evening. He was still at his office. "I need to show you something." His voice changed. "About Paige?" "Yes. I will be home in 40 minutes." He arrived in 32. I had printed the filing. He read it at the kitchen table. "This was before Christmas," he said. "Yes." She already knew she had no partnership. "Yes." And she used it for a loan. "Yes." He pushed the pages away. "Is this illegal?" "I am not giving you a legal answer." "What did Simone say?" "That the lender denied the application and we were not harmed directly, but it stays in our records." He rubbed both hands over his face. "I need to call her." "Why?" "She needs help." "With what?" "Her business. Her lying." "I do not know." Do not confuse rescue with accountability. "She is my sister." "Yes." "What would you do?" "I would tell her I know. I would ask her to stop using my company. Then I would let her decide whether to tell the truth." He stared at the filing. "She will blame you." "She already does." "And my mother will defend her." "Yes." "And Dad will ask everyone to calm down." "Yes." He looked up. "You say that like weather." At this point, it is predictable. He called Paige the next day, not on speaker. He spoke from our bedroom with the door closed. I did not listen. 27 minutes later, he came into the living room. "She says the lender added the restaurant's name without her approval." "That is false." "I know." "She says she forgot it was included." "That is also false." "I know." He sat beside me. She cried. "Did you apologize?" "No." That was progress. "She said she is drowning," he continued. "In debt?" "In even." Breathing, I waited. "She asked me for money." "How much?" 50,000. "Did you say yes?" "No." "Did you say maybe?" "No." I believed him. "What did you say?" "That I would help her find a financial advisor, but I would not invest." "And?" She hung up. I nodded. Daniel looked toward the window. "I keep thinking there is a sentence I can say that will make her understand." "There is not." "How do you know?" "Because she understands." He turned toward me. "She knows she lied. She knows why it was wrong. She wants the outcome without the responsibility." He was quiet. "You sound certain." "I have watched your family for 4 years." He rested his elbows on his knees. "I used to think you judged them too quickly." I did the opposite. That evening, Paige called Vivian. Vivian called Daniel. Daniel did not answer. The next morning, Vivian sent me an email directly. The subject line was family. "Elise, I have avoided writing because I hoped time would bring perspective. This situation has caused great pain. Paige made errors while under pressure, but your legal and financial scrutiny has turned a private family struggle into something frightening for her. I believe strong women lift other women. They do not wait for mistakes and use power to punish them. Daniel is becoming distant from those who raised him. I hope you will consider whether being right is worth what this is doing to our family. Vivian." I read it once, then again. The email was almost beautiful in its construction. No accusation she could be forced to prove. No mention of the deposit. No mention of the false partnership. No mention of the loan filing. Only pain, pressure, power, and family. Vivian did not deny facts. She rearranged them until the wrong person stood in the center. I forwarded the email to Simone. Then I replied. "Vivian, Paige used my restaurant's name in client materials, accepted a deposit for services she could not provide, and listed the restaurant in a financing application without authorization. She was given the opportunity to correct the client issue privately. She did so. No further action was taken. I have not contacted her lenders, vendors, clients, friends, or family about her financial problems. I have not harmed her business. I have protected mine. I will not accept responsibility for Daniel's choices or Paige's decisions. Elise, I sent it. No greeting, no closing. Clean." Vivian replied 9 minutes later. "I see no compassion in this message." I did not answer. Compassion did not require confusion. For a while, that became my central thought. Compassion did not require me to deny what happened. Love did not require me to sit where someone placed me. Marriage did not require me to protect Daniel from seeing his family clearly. And dignity did not require an audience. If this part of the story feels familiar, comment the word record, not because every hurt needs a case file, but because patterns become visible when you stop explaining each wound away. Subscribe and stay, because by then I thought the truth had already surfaced. I did not yet know Vivian and Paige were building a larger plan around the one room they believed they could control. The plan began with Richard and Vivian's 40th wedding anniversary. The anniversary fell in September, but Vivian started discussing it in April. At first, Daniel heard about it through Richard. His father called one Sunday afternoon and asked whether we knew any good restaurants with private rooms. Daniel looked at me from across the living room. "I might," he said. I raised one eyebrow. Richard continued speaking. Daniel listened, then asked, "How many people?" A pause. 30? Another pause. "Yes, that is not small." I could hear Richard's voice faintly through the phone, but not the words. Daniel said, "I will ask Elise." He ended the call. "My mother wants a dinner." "For the anniversary?" "Yes." "How many?" 30 to 40. "At a restaurant?" "She does not want it at the house." "Why?" He shrugged. "She says she wants to enjoy it." "Who suggested alder and ash?" He looked at me. "Dad said Paige did." "Of course she had." "What did you say?" "That I would ask you." I waited. He understood. "Not as my wife who works with restaurants," he said. "As the owner." "Better." He smiled faintly. "Would you consider it?" "Business is business." "That sounds dangerous." "It means we have policies." He leaned back. "What are the policies for hostile relatives?" "Deposit in full." He laughed. I did not. 2 days later, Paige emailed Tessa requesting information about the private dining room. She used her personal address. She did not mention our history. Tessa forwarded the request to me. The anniversary date was a Saturday in September. We normally required a $6,000 food and beverage minimum for full private room use on Saturday evenings. Paige asked for the room at half price. She also requested permission to bring outside wine without a corkage fee, provide her own flowers, rearrange the furniture, install a photo wall, and use the restaurant's name in anniversary publicity. She wrote that the event could create valuable exposure. Exposure. A word people often offer when they do not want to pay. I approved the booking at standard rates. No discount, no outside wine. Flowers allowed with prior approval. No use of the restaurant's name beyond the event location. Furniture changes subject to management approval. A 50% deposit due within 7 days. Tessa sent the response. Paige called Daniel that night. He put the phone on speaker only after asking her permission. She said yes because she wanted me to hear. "The price is insulting," she began. "He prices standard," I said. "You own the building." "No, we lease it." "You own the restaurant." "Yes. So you can reduce the fee." "I can. I am not going to." She laughed sharply. "This is Mom and Dad's 40th anniversary. That does not change our Saturday minimum. You are charging family full price? I am charging for food, labor, and the room. You could gift it." I could. The silence lasted 4 seconds. I counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. "Are you refusing?" she asked. "Yes." Daniel shifted beside me. Paige exhaled. "Mom said you would do this." "Then why did you ask?" "Because I thought you might care about Daniel." He went still. I did too. "Do not use me that way," he said. "I am not." "You are. I am saying your wife is using money to punish our family." "No," I said. "I am refusing to make 20 employees work for free because you want a luxury dinner." "No one said free. You asked for a discount, outside alcohol, waived fees, custom furniture, and publicity rights." Other restaurants offer partnerships. Then use another restaurant. That was the sentence she did not expect. She had assumed I wanted the booking. She had assumed family access was a gift to me. You would turn away Mom and Dad's anniversary? She asked. If the terms do not work, yes. Daniel looked at me. Not with fear, with recognition. He was finally learning that my calmness was not hesitation. Paige lowered her voice. You really think owning one restaurant makes you important? No. Then what is this? A quote. She ended the call. The deposit arrived 2 days later. Paid from Richard and Vivian's joint account. No note, no apology. The event was booked. From that point forward, Vivian behaved as if the private dining room had become an extension of her home. She emailed Tessa at least twice a week. She changed the guest count, then changed it back. She requested a new menu. She rejected the new menu. She asked whether the brass fixture could be dimmed because warm light sometimes makes people look tired. She asked whether the staff could wear different uniforms. She asked for a specific table shape. She asked for chairs with higher backs. She asked that no one be seated near the service door. I read every request. Tessa answered most of them. We approved what was reasonable. We declined what was not. Vivian never emailed me directly. She spoke through the restaurant as if I were not attached to it. That might have been the strangest part. She knew I owned Alder and Ash. She knew I approved the event. Still, in her mind, ownership was a fact she could place outside the family structure. At the restaurant, I had authority. At her table, she believed she still decided who belonged. In May, Vivian requested a tasting. She wanted Paige, Richard, Daniel, and herself present. My name was not included. Tessa forwarded the email. Would you like me to add you? She asked. No, I replied. Attend as management. Send me notes. The tasting took place on a Tuesday afternoon. I was upstairs, not hiding, working. Through the office floor, I could faintly hear chairs move in the private room. Tessa brought them 5 menu options. Matteo presented 2 main courses, 3 starters, and 4 desserts. Vivian rejected the lamb because Richard did not like rosemary. Richard said he liked rosemary. She ignored him. Paige rejected the trout because it did not photograph well. Matteo told her fish was not required to photograph itself. Tessa wrote that line in the notes. Daniel later told me he had nearly laughed. They selected short ribs, roasted chicken, a beet salad, and the pear tart. The tart mattered because it had been on the menu the night of the flood. Vivian called it pleasant. Matteo told me that was fine. She does not need to love it, he said. She needs to pay the invoice. After the tasting, Daniel came upstairs. He stood in my doorway. You could have joined us. I was not invited. It is your restaurant. That does not make every table mine. He leaned against the frame. My mother asked where you were. What did you say? Upstairs. And? She said some people do not belong in every conversation. The line landed differently this time, not because it hurt more, because she had repeated it after learning the truth. It was no longer ignorance. It was a claim. What did you say? I asked. That you owned the conversation. I looked at him. He smiled slightly. She did not like that. I imagine not. He entered the office and closed the door. There is something else. What? Paige wants to use the anniversary to introduce her business to 2 investors. I sat back. Who? He did not know their names. Mom said they were family friends. Did she say Pearl Table would be involved in the dinner? No. She said the investors would see Paige's vision. At my restaurant. Yes. Using our food? Yes. Without a partnership? Yes. I tapped one finger against the desk. Daniel watched me. What are you thinking? That the event needs clearer terms. You think she will claim credit? She has already done it twice. I called Tessa. We added language to the event agreement stating that all food, beverage, service, menu design, and event execution were provided solely by Alder and Ash. No outside company could represent itself as the planner, caterer, or culinary partner. The updated agreement required a signature. Richard signed it. Page did not. That should have ended the issue. It did not. In June, our photographer found images from Alder and Ash on Pearl Table's website. The photographs showed the private room, courtyard, and plated dishes. They were ours. One image even showed Mateo's hands placing herbs on a plate. The page D described Pearl Table as offering exclusive restaurant collaborations. No restaurant was named. It did not need to be. The brass light, stone walls, and distinctive plates were recognizable. I took screenshots. Simone sent a second notice. The images disappeared within 24 hours. Paige called Daniel. He did not put it on speaker. Afterward, he told me she had called me obsessed. "Do you think I am?" I asked. "No." "Do you think I'm going too far?" "No." He answered quickly. That mattered. Then he added, "I think she wants you to stop noticing." That mattered more. The summer moved forward. Alder and Ash grew busier. We added a Sunday supper menu. Priya and I began discussing a second location in a neighboring county. Mateo refused to discuss it until we promised the kitchen would be larger. Daniel started visiting once a week. Sometimes he ate at the bar while I worked. Sometimes he brought his laptop and sat upstairs. He learned the staff's names. He learned that Tessa's son played baseball. He learned Mateo never ate dessert, but tested everyone. He learned I kept a spare pair of shoes beneath my desk and that I hated approving napkin orders. One evening, he helped me count wine inventory. We stood in the cellar beneath the restaurant. The room was cold and smelled of cork, stone, and dust. He held a clipboard. "How many Cabernet?" he asked. "Which one?" He looked at the shelves. "There are 6. That is why the labels matter." He laughed. "You enjoy this. Not inventory. The whole thing. Yes." He marked a case. "I am proud of you." I looked at him. The sentence was simple. I had wanted it for years. Not because I needed approval. Because I wanted my husband to see the life I had built. "Thank you," I said. He looked down at the clipboard. "I should have said that earlier." "Yes. I am saying it now." "Yes." We continued counting. 9 cases of Cabernet, 6 Pinot Noir, 4 Chardonnay, 3 bottles missing from the event shelf because Mateo had borrowed them for sauce and forgotten to record it. Ordinary work. That was where repair happened. Not in speeches, in repeated proof. Still, the anniversary dinner waited ahead of us. By August, Vivian had increased the guest count to 42. She wanted one long central table with smaller tables along the sides. Tessa explained that the room worked better with 3 connected tables. Vivian insisted. She sent a seating chart. My name was on it. At first, I saw it in the lower right corner, beside Daniel. 2 weeks later, she sent a revised chart. My name had moved. I was now seated near the service door beside a cousin I had met once. Daniel remained at the central table. I said nothing. 3 days later, another chart arrived. My name was gone. Tessa called me. "Do you want me to correct it?" "Not yet." She may have forgotten. "No. Elise." "I know." Tessa lowered her voice. "This is your res."
Torrent. Yes. You should not be standing. I will not be. What does that mean? It means do not change the chart. She was silent. You are letting her set the table. I am letting her show me what she intends. Tessa understood. Do you want staff informed? Only you and Mateo. No one reacts unless I give a direction. And Daniel? I will speak to him. I did that evening. He was in the kitchen cutting an apple. I placed the revised seating chart beside him. He looked at it, then again. Where are you? Not there. His face tightened. Did she send this? Yes. When? This morning. He put down the knife. I will call her. No. He stared at me. No? Not yet. Elise, she removed you. From a draft seating chart. At your restaurant? Yes. What are you doing? Waiting. For what? To see whether this is carelessness or intention. You know it is intention. I want her to make it undeniable. He walked away from the counter.
Why? Because every time she does something small, someone explains it. I will not. Your father will. I do not care. Paige will. I do not care. Your mother will cry. He stopped. I waited. He looked back at the chart. What do you need from me? Do not warn her. That feels dishonest. No. It feels uncomfortable. He knew I was right. What happens if she leaves you off? I attend. Where do you sit? That will be her decision. His expression changed. You are testing her. No. I folded the chart. I am stopping myself from saving her. Daniel sat at the table. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded. The final seating chart arrived 10 days before the dinner. My name was included again. Beside Daniel. I almost believed Vivian had changed her mind. Then Tessa showed me the attached room diagram. 42 chairs were listed. 43 guests had confirmed. One chair was missing. Mine. The name was present. The seat was not. It was clever. If anyone noticed, Vivian could call it an error. If no one did, she could create a solution at the door. A smaller table, a chair near the wall. A request that I help. The humiliation could be performed as logistics. I printed the chart. I placed it in a gray folder. The same folder already held Paige's false proposals, the client deposit record, the lender filing, the image screenshots, the signed event terms, and every correction notice. A record, not revenge. I called Simone. The chair is missing, I said. What chair? Mine. She was silent for one beat, then she understood. What do you want to do? Nothing yet. Elise, I am not asking for legal advice. Good, because this is not a legal problem. No. It is a marriage problem. Yes. And a family problem. Yes. And you are letting it reach the event. I am letting the event reveal it. She breathed out. Do not turn yourself into evidence. The sentence stayed with me. What does that mean? It means you do not need to be hurt one more time to prove you were hurt before. I looked at the folder. That is not why I am going. Then why? Because she believes the room still belongs to her. And it does not. Simone was quiet. Call me if the business issue changes. I will. Not the chair. No. Good. She ended the call. 3 days before the anniversary, Paige entered Alder and Ash without an appointment. I was upstairs. Tessa called me from the host stand. She is here. Alone? Yes. What does she want? She says she needs to review the room. Is the room empty? For 40 minutes. Let her review it. Stay with her. Paige spent 26 minutes in the private dining room. She moved place cards. She measured the wall. She asked whether the staff could enter through the courtyard so service would not interrupt photographs. Tessa told her no. She asked whether the dessert plates could be removed before speeches. Tessa told her that could be arranged. Then Paige pointed to the seating plan. Mom wants one chair moved on the night. Which one? Tessa asked. Elise's. Tessa told me later that Paige said my name without hesitation. Where does she want it moved? Tessa asked. Against the wall until dinner starts. Why? Family photographs. Elise is family, Paige smiled. Not for the first set. Tessa kept her voice calm. And after the photographs? We will see where there is space. Tessa did exactly what I had asked. She did not react. She did not warn Paige. She did not mention that I owned the restaurant. She simply said, Furniture changes require management approval. Paige looked around the room. Then approve it. I will note the request. Paige left. Tessa came upstairs immediately. Her face was pale with anger. She said it directly. I know. No, Elise. She said your chair. She said against the wall. I heard you. How are you calm? I am not calm. You look calm. That is different. I opened the gray folder and added Tessa's written note. She watched me. What happens now? Nothing changes. You are still coming. Yes. Does Matteo know? Tell him only that no furniture moves without my approval. He is going to ask why. Tell him I said so. Tessa folded her arms. I do not like this. Neither do I. Then stop it. I looked at her. She was not challenging my authority. She was protecting me. That was harder to receive than obedience. I need to see Daniel's choice, I said. Has he not chosen? In pieces. She understood then. The dinner was not only about Vivian. It was about whether Daniel would recognize the chair before someone else had to. I told him that night. Not everything. I said Paige had requests. Ted, a last-minute seating change involving me. What change? He asked. I want you to notice it at the event. He stared at me. That is not fair. No. Then tell me. I have spent 4 years pointing out what happens after it happens. This is different. Yes. Why are you doing this? Because I need to know whether you see me when no one explains. He stood from the sofa. That sounds like a test. Maybe it is. He walked to the window. I watched his shoulders rise and fall. I hate this, he said. So do I. I am going to call Paige. If you do, she will change the plan. Good. And you will never know what you missed. He turned. I know what they are capable of. Knowing in theory has protected you from seeing it in real time. That is cruel. No. It is true. He stared at me. I did not look away. Finally he said, Fine. Not warm. Just fine. That was the word people used when love had become a task. The night before the dinner, I stayed late at Alder and Ash. The dining room was empty by 11:40 p.m. Staff had gone home. Matteo was in the kitchen finishing stock. I walked into the private room. The long table had been assembled. 42 chairs stood around it. One place card rested on the sideboard. Mine. I picked it up. Elise Warren. Black ink. Heavy cream paper. The card existed. The chair did not. I placed the card in my coat pocket. Matteo entered carrying a cup of tea. He looked at the table, then at me. You know, he said. Yes. What? They plan to remove my chair. His face hardened. Who? Vivian. Paige. He set down the tea. No. Yes. I will put another chair. No. Boss. I need you to follow my direction tomorrow. What direction? Do not intervene unless the chair is physically moved. He stared at me. And if it is? Ask me what I want done. That is all? That is all. He looked toward the table. Why would anyone do that? To prove they can. He was quiet. Can they? I placed the card back on the sideboard. No. The day of the dinner arrived warm for September. At 8:00 a.m., I woke before the alarm. Daniel was already awake. Neither of us mentioned the event. At 9:15, I went for a walk around Larch Avenue. At 10:30, I reviewed payroll. At noon, I ate half a sandwich at my desk. At 2:00, flowers arrived at Alder and Ash. White roses, green hydrangeas, and branches of eucalyptus. At 3:20, Vivian arrived. She wore a navy dress and carried a printed binder. At 3:35, Paige arrived in pale gold. At 4:00, the photographer began setting up near the private room entrance. At 4:15, Tessa texted me. They have moved your place card to the sideboard. At 4:17, another message came. Your chair is still at the table. At 4:22, Paige asked staff to remove it after cocktails begin. At 4:30, I closed my laptop. The gray folder sat on my desk. I placed it in my bag. Then I stood in front
Of the small mirror beside the filing cabinet. I wore a dark green dress with long sleeves. No bright jewelry, no dramatic shoes. I looked like myself. That mattered. At 5:05, Daniel arrived upstairs. He wore a charcoal suit. He looked nervous. "You are ready," he said. "Yes." "Are you?" "No." He nodded. "Me neither." We stood in the office for several seconds. Then he reached for my hand. I let him take it. At 5:18, we walked downstairs. The dining room smelled of rosemary, warm bread, and polished wood. Guests had begun arriving. Laughter moved through the front room. Vivian stood near the bar accepting compliments. When she saw me, her smile changed by less than an inch. "Elise," she said, "you made it." It sounded like surprise. I did. Her eyes moved to my dress. "Green, yes. How bold." Daniel's hand tightened around mine. Vivian turned toward him. "You look handsome." "Thank you." She kissed his cheek, then she looked toward the private room. "We are doing immediate family photographs first." "Of course," I said. Paige approached with the photographer behind her. "Daniel, we need you." She looked at me. "Elise, cocktails are in the front room." "I can see them." Paige smiled. "The family photograph will only take a minute." Daniel looked toward me. This was the first choice. He said, "Elise is coming." Vivian's expression did not move. "We are beginning with the original family." "No." One word. Daniel said it softly. Paige laughed. "Do not start." "I am not starting anything." "Then come take the picture." "With my wife." Vivian lowered her voice. "Daniel, today is not about conflict." "No. It is about your anniversary." "Exactly. Annalise is my family." The photographer looked at the floor. Richard stood near the fireplace. He heard every word. For 1 second, I thought he might speak. He did not. Vivian pressed her lips together. "Fine. Not warm, just fine." The first photograph included me. I stood beside Daniel. Paige stood beside Vivian. Richard stood at the end. The photographer asked us to move closer. No one did. The flash went off 3 times. Afterward, guests moved toward the private room. I watched Vivian whisper to Paige. Paige nodded. The moment had not changed the plan. It had only delayed it. At 5:42, cocktails ended. At 5:47, Tessa opened the private room doors. At 5:49, guests began finding their seats. I walked beside Daniel. My name card was not at the table. My chair was. For 1 second, I thought they had abandoned the idea. Then Paige stepped in front of me. "Oh," she said. "There has been a seating adjustment." Behind her, Vivian turned toward one of the servers. "Please remove that chair." The server froze. Everyone near the table heard her. The room became quiet in small circles. The server looked at Tessa. Tessa looked at me. I said nothing. Vivian placed both hands on the carved back of the chair. "I will do it," she said. She lifted it. 1 step, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She carried it across the room and placed it against the wall beside the coat stand. "There," she said. "Now the table looks balanced." No one moved. The chair stood against the wall. My name card remained in my coat pocket. Vivian looked at the table as though she had corrected a crooked picture. Paige stood beside her with one hand resting on the back of an empty seat that was not hers. Richard stared at the place where my chair had been. Daniel looked at the wall, then at his mother. "What did you just do?" he asked. Vivian adjusted the cuff of her dress. "There was a counting problem." "No," he said. "There was a chair. We have 42 seats. There are 43 guests. Which is why I corrected it." Daniel took 1 step toward her.
You removed Elise's chair. Vivian's smile tightened. Elise does not need to make this personal. I almost laughed. My chair was 6 steps away because she had carried it there with her own hands, but somehow I was the one making it personal. One of the guests near the door looked down at his place card. Another pretended to check a message. The room smelled of eucalyptus, roasted garlic, and the first trays of warm bread waiting in the service hall. Paige lowered her voice. There is an extra seat near the bar. I am not sitting near the bar, I said. We are trying to keep the main table balanced. I looked at the place where my chair had been. The table was balanced before Vivian moved it. Paige folded her arms. This is Mom and Dad's night. Yes. Then stop making it about you. Daniel stepped between us. She did not touch the chair. Paige looked at him. Do not be dramatic. I watched Mom carry it across the room. Vivian raised one hand. Enough. Elise can join us after the photographs and speeches. And dinner? I asked. She glanced toward the table. We will find a solution. The exact calmness of her voice made the humiliation worse. She had prepared those words. She had imagined me accepting them. Perhaps I was supposed to smile. Perhaps I was supposed to stand near the coat rack until someone found a folding chair. Perhaps I was supposed to help the servers, carry a handbag, or disappear into the front dining room while the family celebrated itself. That was when the kitchen door opened. Matteo entered, carrying a small tasting plate. He had changed from his prep apron into his black dinner jacket. His name was stitched above the left pocket in dark thread. Behind him, 2 servers waited with bread baskets. He looked at me, then at the chair against the wall. His eyes moved to the empty space beside Daniel. The room was silent enough that I heard the bottom of the tasting plate touch the silver tray in his hand. Boss, he said. One word. Nothing theatrical. No raised voice. Still, it changed the air more completely than shouting could have. Several guests turned toward me. The photographer lowered his camera. Paige's face lost color. Vivian looked at Matteo as though he had spoken to the wrong person. What did you call her? She asked. Matteo did not look at Vivian. He kept his eyes on me. Do you want service paused? Vivian laughed once. It was a small, sharp sound. This is a family matter. Matteo waited for my answer, not hers. I looked at the servers behind him. They were still holding the bread. At the table, 42 place settings waited beneath warm brass light. Every plate had been polished. Every napkin had been folded by hand. In the kitchen, 21 people had spent the day preparing food for guests who had nothing to do with the chair. I did not want to punish them. I did not want to punish the staff. I did not even want to punish Vivian. I wanted the truth placed where everyone could see it. Pause service, I said. Matteo nodded. He turned to the servers. Hold the first course. They stepped back through the kitchen door. Vivian stared at me. You cannot stop our dinner. Yes, I said. I can. The room shifted. Not physically. People simply understood something at the same time. Paige recovered first. She works here, she said. Matteo looked at her. No. Tessa entered from the front dining room. She carried the event binder against her chest. Ms. Warren owns Alder and Ash, she said. Vivian's expression did not change immediately. That was one of her talents. She could receive a blow without letting the room see where it landed. Then she smiled. We know Elise invested in the restaurant. Tessa remained still. She is the majority owner. Richard looked at me. Majority? 85%, I said. The words moved quietly through the room. Someone near the fireplace whispered, Oh. Paige looked toward Matteo. You told me there was an ownership group. There is, he said. She is one person. She owns the group that owns this restaurant. Vivian picked up her water glass, though dinner had not begun. The glass was empty. She set it down. This is hardly the time for a business announcement. I agree, I said. Daniel walked to the wall. He took the chair by its carved back. Vivian turned toward him. Leave it. He did not. He carried it 6 steps back across the room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then he placed it beside his seat. The chair legs settled against the floor with a soft wooden knock. Daniel looked at his mother. My wife sits with me. Vivian's eyes sharpened. This is our anniversary. Yes. 40 years. Yes. And you are willing to ruin it over a chair? Daniel kept one hand on the back of mine. No. You were willing to ruin it over a chair. Richard closed his eyes briefly. Paige looked toward the guests. This is Emba, Racing. I reached into my coat pocket. I removed my place card and set it in front of the restored chair. Elise Warren. The black letters faced the table. This was printed 3 weeks ago, I said. My name was never missing. Vivian's jaw tightened. There was a space problem. No, Tessa said. Vivian turned toward her. Tessa opened the event binder. The final guest count was 43. The final diagram contained 42 chairs. On Wednesday, Ms. Paige Warren requested that Elise Warren's chair be placed against the wall during photographs and that management find space later. Paige stared at her. That was a private planning conversation. It was an event instruction, Tessa said. You had no right to write it down. I am the general manager. Writing down event instructions is my job. Vivian looked at me. So this was a trap? No. You told your staff to watch us. I told my staff not to move furniture without approval. You knew what would happen. I knew what you requested. That is the same thing. No. A request can be withdrawn. The room remained quiet. I picked up my bag and removed the gray folder. Paige saw it. Her expression changed before anyone else understood what it was. Why did you bring that? She asked. Because you invited 2 people tonight to discuss Pearl Table events. A man near the middle of the table slowly lowered his glass. Beside him, a woman in a silver jacket looked directly at Paige. Paige's voice became tight. They are family friends. The woman spoke. We met twice about an investment. Vivian looked at her. Lenora, this does not concern you. Lenora Bell was in her late 50s and owned 3 boutique hotels with her brother. I had recognized her name on the guest list. I had never met her in person, but Priya knew her professionally. Lenora remained seated. Paige sent me financial projections based on a restaurant partnership, she said. Every face turned toward Paige. Paige gripped the back of a chair. We were discussing possibilities. Lenora looked toward me. Was Alder and Ash one of those possibilities? No, I said. Paige spoke over me. We had been exploring a collaboration. No, I repeated. That is your interpretation. I opened the gray folder. No, this is the record. I placed the first document on the table. It was the original proposal Paige had shown us at brunch. The Alder and Ash logo appeared on the second page. Then I placed the client proposal beside it. Next came the proof of Aaron Feld's $7,500 deposit. Then the first legal notice. Then the correction emails. Then the lender filing that listed Alder and Ash as a strategic partner. Then the screenshots from Pearl Table's website. Then the second legal notice. Finally, I placed the signed anniversary event agreement on top. Richard's signature appeared at the bottom. The agreement for tonight states that all odd service, menu development, and event operations are provided solely by Alder and Ash, I said. It also states that no outside company may represent itself as our partner. Lenora looked at Paige. The materials you sent us describe this dinner as a Pearl Table production. Paige's mouth opened. No sound came out at first. Then she said, The design is mine. Tessa looked around the room. The restaurant provided the floor plan. The flowers are mine. The florist invoiced Vivian Warren directly. The guest experience is mine. Matteo was still standing near the kitchen door. He spoke calmly. My team cooked the food. Paige looked at him. I chose the menu. You rejected the trout. A few guests looked down. Matteo continued. You did not create the menu. You attended a tasting. Paige's face reddened. This is unbelievable. No, I said. It is documented. Vivian stood. Her chair moved backward against the floor. I will not allow my daughter to be attacked at my anniversary dinner. No one is attacking her. You brought legal papers. I brought records of what already happened. You arranged this entire display.
I did not ask you to remove my chair. You knew I would. That sentence left her mouth before she could stop it. The room seemed to contract around it. Daniel looked at her. You knew you were going to remove it? Vivian stared at me. She did not answer him. Daniel stepped closer. Mom. Her eyes moved toward her son. You have no idea what she has done to this family. What has she done? She kept secrets. She collected documents. She turned you against your sister. No. She made you ashamed of us. No. She waited until tonight. Daniel shook his head. She waited for years. Vivian's face changed. Not much, just enough. She looked older beneath the warm light Mateo had chosen. You do not speak to your mother that way. I am speaking clearly. You used to respect me. I used to confuse silence with respect. Richard looked at his son. The words landed on him too. Vivian pressed one hand against the table. I gave you everything. Daniel's voice softened. You gave me many things. And this is how you repay me? This is not payment. You chose her. He looked at me, then back at Vivian. I chose her when I married her. I was late behaving like it. My throat tightened. Not because the sentence repaired everything. It did not. Because it was true. Paige pushed the documents away. This is all because she hates me. I looked at her. I do not hate you. You wanted my business to fail. I wanted you to stop using mine. You could have helped me. You asked Daniel for $100,000 before telling him the truth. I needed support. You needed a business model. Her eyes filled. Unlike Vivian's tears, Paige's came without control. Her face tightened. Her breathing changed. For the first time, she looked less like the golden daughter and more like someone who had been running from the same wall for months. You do not know what it is like, she said, to fail, to have everyone expect you to succeed. The word surprised me. Vivian turned toward her. Paige. Paige ignored her. You were allowed to be quiet, she said to me. No one watched you. I looked around the room. My chair is against the wall because no one watched me? She covered her mouth. The question was not cruel. That made it harder for her to reject. I made mistakes, she said. Yes. I was going to fix them. You repeated them. I was desperate. Yes. You could have given me one event. You tried to take one. Lenora Bell gathered the proposal pages in front of her. I cannot proceed with the investment, she said. Paige turned toward her. Lenora, please. I asked you directly whether the restaurant relationship was formal. It was developing. The owner says it was not. We are family. Lenora looked at me, then back at Paige. Family is not a contract. The man beside Lenora stood. His name was David Shaw. He was her business partner and attorney, though he was attending as a guest rather than representing anyone that evening. He placed his napkin beside his plate. We should leave. Paige moved toward them. Can we discuss this privately? David looked at the documents. We already did. They walked toward the door. Vivian called after them. There has been a misunderstanding. Neither stopped. The private room door closed behind them. The sound was soft. Still, Paige flinched. If you have ever watched a lie collapse under the weight of one calm question, comment the word folder. Not because paperwork makes someone powerful, but because truth becomes harder to rearrange when it has dates, signatures, and receipts. Stay with me, because the reveal was not the end of the dinner. It was the moment everyone had to decide what they would do after pretending they did not see. At 6:04 p.m., service was still paused. At 6:06, one guest asked whether she should leave. At 6:07, Vivian told everyone to remain seated. At 6:08, Richard finally spoke. Vivian, sit down. She turned toward him. He had used her name without softening it. No, darling, no, dear. No attempt to make the instructions sound like a suggestion. She stared at him. What did you say? Sit down. This is my anniversary. It is mine too. His voice shook slightly.
That was the first honest sign of anger I had seen from him in 4 years. Vivian looked around the room. Her eyes found no one willing to rescue her. She sat. Richard remained standing. He looked toward me. I saw the fictional seating chart. Daniel's expression changed. What? Richard swallowed. 3 days ago. You saw the missing chair? Yes. Did you ask about it? I asked your mother whether it was an error. And? She said it would be handled. Daniel stared at him. And you let it happen. Richard lowered his head. Yes. The answer was small. It also cost him more than any excuse would have. I am sorry, Elise, he said. The room stayed still. He did not add that he wanted peace. He did not explain Vivian's intentions. He did not ask me to forgive anyone. I knew something was wrong, he continued. I chose not to ask again. I looked at him. Thank you for telling the truth. It was not forgiveness. It was the only response I could give honestly. He nodded. Then he looked at Vivian. We have done this before. Her face hardened. Done what? Made a place for everyone except her. That is not true. At Christmas, there was a floral arrangement. At Easter, the photographer made that decision. At my birthday, she volunteered to help. I looked at Richard. I had not volunteered. He knew that now. Perhaps he had always known. Vivian's voice rose for the first time. Do not rewrite our family because she owns a restaurant. Richard flinched. Then he steadied himself. This is not about the restaurant. Of course it is. No, it is about the chair. She laughed. One chair. Richard looked at the wall where it had stood. That is what makes it worse. Paige sat down heavily. Her tears had stopped. She looked empty now. I closed the gray folder. There are two separate issues, I said. The family issue and the business issue. Vivian turned toward me. You do not control our family. No. Then stop speaking as if you do. I control what happens in this restaurant. The words were quiet. She heard them. The business issue is simple, I continued. Paige may not use Alder and Ash's name, images, menu, staff, work, or reputation in any proposal, website, client conversation, or financing document. That was already communicated twice. Paige stared at the table. If it happens again, Simone will handle it without another informal opportunity to correct it. Vivian's mouth tightened. You brought your lawyer into this family. Paige brought my business into her financing. Paige whispered, I understand. I looked at her. Do you? Yes. Say what you understand. Vivian sat straighter. Do not humiliate her. I kept my attention on Paige. She looked at the documents, then at me. I do not have a partnership with Alder and Ash. The sentence came slowly. I never had one. I waited. I used the name because I thought it would make people take me seriously. Vivian closed her eyes. Paige continued. I accepted a deposit for an event the restaurant had not agreed to provide. Yes. I returned it. Yes. I used pictures I did not own. Yes. And I told Lenora this dinner was my work. Yes. Her voice cracked. It was not. No one moved. That was the first apology she was capable of giving that night. Not, I am sorry. Something more useful. The truth. I gathered the documents. The restaurant will not pursue damages for the prior uses as long as they remain corrected. Paige looked up. You are not suing me? No. Vivian's eyes narrowed. You expect praise for that? No. I placed the papers back in the folder. This is not revenge. It is a boundary. Paige covered her face with both hands. For a moment, I saw the younger sister inside her. The child who had learned that love arrived when she impressed Vivian. The woman who had built a company out of photographs, borrowed names, and promises because failure felt more dangerous than dishonesty. Understanding did not erase responsibility. It did keep me from enjoying her collapse. I looked toward Matteo. Can the first course still be served? Yes. Good. Vivian stared at me. You intend to continue dinner? The food is prepared. The staff is here. Your guest did nothing wrong. Several people looked toward me. One older woman near Richard placed her hand against her chest. I continued. The anniversary dinner can continue under the signed terms. No business presentations, no claim that Pearl Table produced the event, no more furniture changes. Vivian looked at my chair. You want to sit here after this? Yes. Why? Because it is my place. She looked away. I turned toward Tessa. Resume service. Tessa nodded. At 6:14 p.m., the kitchen doors opened. The servers returned with bread. At 6:16, water was poured. At 6:18, Matteo sent out the beet salad. No one spoke above a murmur. The anniversary dinner continued. Not normally. Normal had already ended. I sat beside Daniel. He kept his hand near mine on the table, but did not touch me until I turned my palm upward. Then he held it. Across from us, Vivian ate nothing. Richard finished half his salad. Paige stared at her plate. The first toast had been planned for 6:45. When the time came, no one stood. Finally, Richard lifted his glass. He looked at Vivian, then at the guests. 40 years is a long time, he said. His voice was unsteady. We have had a good life in many ways. Vivian turned toward him. He continued. We have also made mistakes that lasted because no one wanted to name them. The room became still again. This is not the toast I planned. A few people gave nervous smiles. I am grateful to everyone who came. I am grateful to the people who worked to make this dinner possible. He looked toward the kitchen, then toward me. And I'm sorry that gratitude was not shown before the first course. Vivian placed her glass down. Richard raised his. To truth, even when it arrives late. Some guests lifted their glasses. Heirs did not. I did. Not because the speech was enough, because it was honest. Dinner moved forward in packets. The short ribs arrived, then the chicken, then the pear tart. Between courses, guests spoke carefully about weather, travel, and someone's new roof. No one mentioned the chair. No one needed to. It stood beneath me. At 7:32, Paige asked whether she could speak to me privately. We went into the courtyard. The night was warm, but the stone walls held a coolness from the day. The fountain ran quietly. Paige stood near one of the covered tables. For a moment she did not speak. Then she said, Did you know Lenora would be here? She was on the guest list. Did you bring the folder because of her? I brought it because you had already used the restaurant's name in business materials. You wanted her to see. I wanted you not to lie. That is not an answer. It is the only one that matters. She looked toward the lit private room windows. I am going to lose everything. What is everything? My company. Your company is already in debt. Her face tightened. Daniel told you. Public filings told Priya. She wrapped both arms around herself. I can fix it. How? I do not know. Then stop promising outcomes before you understand the problem. She looked at me. You always make everything sound simple. No. I make it specific. I hate that. I know. She laughed once through her tears. For the first time there was no performance in it. Mom said you were waiting for us to fail. I was busy building something. She said you thought you were better than me. I thought you were lying. That is worse. It should feel worse. She wiped beneath one eye. Are you going to tell everyone about the judgments? No. The tax lien? No. The loan? The people who need to know already have access to the record. She stared at me. Why not? Why not what? Why not ruin me? I looked through the window at the staff clearing plates. Because stopping you is enough. She began crying again. Quieter this time. I did not hug her. Mercy does not always look like comfort. Sometimes it looks like refusing to strike after the danger has passed. I can give you the name of a restructuring accountant, I said. She looked up. Would she work with me? If you tell her the truth. Will you pay for it? No. Her face closed slightly, then reopened. Of course not. I will make the introduction. The rest is yours. She nodded. We returned to the dining room separately. At 8:05, dessert ended. At 8:12, the photographer quietly packed his equipment. At 8:18, the first guests began leaving. Most thanked the staff. A few thanked me. One woman touched my arm near the door. You handled that with more grace than I would have, she said. I did not know whether it was a compliment. Grace is often the word used when someone survives disrespect without making others uncomfortable. I handled it the way I needed to, I said. She nodded. At 8:31, the private room held only immediate family. Vivian remained at the table. Richard stood near the fireplace. Paige had gone to the restroom. Daniel and I were preparing to leave. Vivian spoke without looking at me. Are you satisfied? I stopped. No. She turned. You destroyed your sister-in-law's opportunity. She did that. You humiliated me in front of 40 people. You removed my chair in front of 40 people. You could have handled it privately. I did. For 4 years. Her face tightened. You never tried to understand me. I understood you very well. No, you decided I was cruel. I decided your behavior was cruel. That is the same thing. No. I stepped closer to the table. One gives you nowhere to go. The other gives you a choice. Her eyes moved toward mine. What choice? Change the behavior. She looked away. You make everything sound like a policy. Policies exist because apologies without change do not protect anyone. She was silent. Daniel stood beside me. Vivian looked at him. You are leaving with her. Yes. The hurt in her face was real. So was the manipulation surrounding it. Both could exist at once. You are my son, she said. I know. I will not always be here. I know. And you are wasting time. Daniel's voice became quiet. No, I wasted time by making Elise face this alone. Vivian stared at him. She has turned you against me. No. He took my hand. She showed me what I kept refusing to see. Richard looked down. Vivian's eyes filled. This time one tear crossed her cheek. I could not tell whether it was grief, anger, fear, or all three. You have won, she said to me. I shook my head. This was never a contest. It feels like one. That is because you only understand closeness when someone is losing. The sentence landed harder than I intended. Vivian's face changed. For 1 second, I regretted it. Then I remembered the chair against the wall. Not as permission to be cruel, as permission not to retreat from the truth. She stood. Some people do not belong in every conversation, she said. The old line. One final attempt to place me outside. I looked at her. You were right. Daniel turned toward me. Vivian's expression sharpened. I continued. People who speak for businesses they do not own do not belong in those business conversations. Paige had returned to the doorway. She lowered her eyes. And people who remove someone's chair do not get to decide whether that person belongs at the table. Vivian said nothing. I picked up my bag. That decision belongs to the person who owns the chair, the table, or simply the dignity to stand until the truth is clear. Then Daniel and I left. We did not speak in the car for the first 10 minutes. The streets were damp from a brief evening rain. Traffic lights reflected red and green in across the pavement. At the third light, Daniel said, I saw it. I looked toward him. The chair, he said. Before Mateo came in. I saw it. Yes. I should have moved it immediately. Yes. I froze. For how long? Maybe 5 seconds.
6, I said. He gave a tired breath. Of course you counted. I count when something is wrong. He looked ahead. I thought about telling Mom not to start. That is not what needed to be said. I know. What needed to be said? He tightened his hands on the steering wheel. Put my wife's chair back. Yes. He nodded. I am sorry. The apology stayed between us. I did not rush to make it disappear. At home, he removed his jacket and sat at the kitchen table. I made tea. Neither of us drank it. At 11:14 p.m., he said, I think I should stay somewhere else for a while. The words hurt even though I had considered saying them myself. Why? Because tonight does not erase the years before it. No. And I keep waiting for you to tell me whether I did enough. I cannot do that. I know. He looked toward the ceramic key bowl by the door. I need to understand who I am when my mother is not telling me. I sat across from him. How long? I do not know. Then choose a beginning. He nodded. I will stay at a hotel for a week. Not Alder and Ash. He almost smiled. No. After that? I will find an apartment if you want space. I looked at the man I had loved for 6 years. He was not the villain of my story. That did not mean he had been the partner I needed. I want honesty, I said. So do I. Not promises. No promises. Actions. He nodded. Actions. He packed a small bag. At 12:06 a.m., he left. I stood at the window and watched his car cross the pharmacy parking lot. I counted the seconds until his taillights disappeared. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I went to bed alone. The consequences arrived in packets. Monday morning, Lenora Bell formally withdrew from discussions with Pearl Table. Tuesday, David Shaw sent Paige a written request confirming that all investment materials containing Alder and Ash had been destroyed. Wednesday, Paige removed the final restaurant photograph from her social media accounts. Thursday, she called the restructuring accountant whose name I had given her. Friday, Vivian canceled the family dinner she had planned for the following week. No explanation, no replacement date. The next Monday, Richard came to Alder and Ash alone. He arrived at 10:12 a.m. before lunch service. Tessa called upstairs. Your father-in-law is here. Does he have an appointment? No. What does he want? He says 10 minutes. I met him in the front dining room. The tables were set but empty. Morning, lad. I reached across the floor. Richard stood beside table 7 holding a small paper bag. I brought the place card, he said. He removed a cream card from the bag. Elise Warren. It was not the one from my coat pocket. It was a second copy. I found it in Vivian's binder, he said. I took it. Why are you giving this to me? Because she had it. I waited. The card was printed, he continued. The chair was counted. She planned it. I know. I know you know. He looked older than he had at the anniversary. I need you to understand that I know now. You knew before the dinner. Not everything. Enough. He nodded. Yes. We stood in the empty room. The silence felt different without Vivian directing it. I have spent 40 years keeping the peace, he said. No. You kept quiet. His face tightened. Yes. I am not saying that to punish you. I know. Peace would have protected everyone. He looked at the place card in my hand. What I protected was the arrangement. That was his honest beat. Late. Still honest. I told Vivian I will not attend another event where you are excluded, he said. What did she say? That you had taken another person from her. What did you say? That people are not furniture. I looked at him. He gave a tired smile. I should have learned that before 65. Yes. He accepted the answer. Daniel is staying at a hotel. I know. He called you? He told me. Richard nodded. I am sorry for what he learned from me. That apology belongs to him. I gave it to him too. Good. He looked toward the kitchen. Is Matteo here? Yes. I would like to apologize. For what? For treating the restaurant as if it existed for our family to use. I studied him. Tell Tessa. She managed the event. He nodded. I will. Before leaving, he placed the paper bag on the table. Inside was the anniversary photograph. The first one, the original family plus me. I stood beside Daniel in my dark green dress. Vivian's smile was perfect. Paige's chin was lifted. Richard looked tired. Daniel's shoulder touched mine. I folded the photograph once, not through any face, down the empty space between us. Daniel stayed away for 3 weeks. We spoke every day, but not for long. He began counseling. He did not announce it as proof of change. He simply went. He met me for coffee twice. The first time, he apologized again. The second time, he asked what I needed. I need you to stop asking me to design your repair, I said. He nodded. That is fair. Do the work because you want to become someone different. I do. Then let me watch. He moved into a small furnished apartment near his office. We did not call it a separation publicly. It was one. Vivian sent him messages every morning. For the first week, he answered none. Then he wrote one response. I love you. I will speak with you when you can discuss what happened without blaming Elise. Vivian did not contact him for 12 days. On the 13th, she wrote, I am sorry the dinner became unpleasant. Daniel did not respond. On the 17th day, she wrote, I am sorry Elise felt excluded. He did not respond. On the 24th day, she wrote, I should not have moved the chair. He showed me the message. What do you think? He asked. It is a sentence. Is it enough? That is not for me to decide yet. He nodded. He did not push. Paige closed Pearl Table events in November. The website disappeared first. Then the social accounts. Then the leased mailing address. She sold some equipment, negotiated payment plans with 2 vendors, and took a job coordinating events for a conference hotel. She did not call me for 3 months. When she finally did, her voice sounded different. Less polished, more tired. I started at the hotel, she said. I heard. Daniel told you? Richard? Oh. She paused. I am learning purchasing. That is useful. It is awful. I smiled despite myself. Yes. I thought vendors just sent things. They send invoices too. I know that now. Silence settled between us. Then she said, I am sorry. I waited. For the restaurant, she continued, the proposals, the pictures, the deposit, and the chair, she breathed out. I knew Mom was going to do it. Yes. I helped her. Yes. I thought if you looked small, I would feel less small. The honesty hurt more than another excuse would have. Did it work? No. She began crying quietly. I do not expect you to forgive me. Good. The word surprised her. Then I softened my voice. Do not build your recovery around being forgiven. Build it around becoming honest. She was quiet for a long time. Can I call you again? Not often. A small laugh escaped her. Fair. We spoke once every few months after that. We did not become friends. We became 2 women who no longer lied about what had happened. That was enough. Vivian came to Alder and Ash in January. She arrived at 3:00 p.m. between lunch and dinner. This time she had an appointment. She sat at table 7, the same table where Richard had returned my place card. I joined her with 2 cups of coffee. She wore gray. No pearls, no carefully chosen color meant to dominate a photograph. For several seconds she looked around the dining room. You built something beautiful, she said. Thank you. I should have said that earlier. Yes. She looked at the coffee. I did not understand why you kept it private. You did not ask. No. She wrapped both hands around the cup. I thought you were judging us. I was observing you. That sounds worse. It was more accurate. She almost smiled.
Then she looked toward me. I was cruel. The sentence came without decoration. I said nothing. I removed the chair because I wanted you to remember that this was
My family. I waited. And because I knew it would hurt you, she continued. The room seemed quieter. I told myself it was about photographs, seating, tradition. She looked down. It was about power. Yes. I am sorry. The apology did not repair 4 years. It did not rebuild trust. It did not return every evening I had spent sitting at the edge of her arrangements. Still, it was real. I believe you are sorry, I said. Her eyes filled. Can we start again? No. The answer hurt her. I saw it. I continued before she could speak. We can begin somewhere new. We cannot pretend the old place did not exist. She nodded slowly. What does somewhere new look like? No surprise events, no comments about my work, clothes, home, or place in the family. No asking Daniel to choose between us. No using Richard or Paige to send messages. She looked overwhelmed. That is a lot. It is specific. She gave a faint, tired laugh. Yes, you do that. If it happens again, I leave. One mistake? A mistake can be repaired. A pattern ends access. She absorbed that. And holidays? We will decide one at a time. Dinner? Not yet. She looked around the restaurant. What about here? I understood the question. Could she eat at Alder and Ash? Could she enter the room where she had tried to remove me? Yes, I said. As a guest. Her eyes moved toward mine. As a guest, she repeated. Not the center, not the owner, not the person who decided where everyone sat. A guest. She nodded. That is fair. It was the first time I had heard her use that word without trying to close a conversation. Daniel returned home in February. Not because 3 weeks had passed, not because counseling had produced a perfect apology, because his actions had become consistent. He corrected his mother without asking me to listen. He spoke to Paige without rescuing her. He visited Richard without acting as the bridge between everyone. He stopped bringing me explanations for behavior he did not defend. Most important, he stopped asking whether he had done enough. He kept doing the work. The night he came home, he carried one suitcase and a small wooden chair. I stood in the doorway. What is that? He looked embarrassed. A chair. I can see that. I found it at a furniture shop near my apartment. The chair was walnut with a curved back, not identical to the one from Alder and Ash, close enough to remember it. Why did you buy it? Because I wanted something in our home that I would never walk past without noticing. I looked at him. That is dangerously symbolic. I know. Where are you going to put it? Wherever you want. I opened the door wider. We need one in the bedroom. He smiled. The chair stayed near the window. Sometimes it held clothes, sometimes books. Once a basket of laundry, ordinary things. That was exactly what I wanted. A chair shop would be ordinary. It should not become a test of belonging. A table should hold food, conversation, and people who understand that making space is not charity. It is love made visible. Alder and Ash opened its second location the following spring. Matteo designed the kitchen. Priya negotiated the lease. Tessa became regional general manager. Daniel attended the opening but stood near the back until I asked him to join the photograph. Vivian came too. She waited to be shown her seat. Paige sent flowers with a card that read, "No borrowed names, just congratulations." I kept the card, not because everything had been healed, because it was proof that people could change when they stopped asking others to carry the cost of their choices. The original Alder and Ash still has the same walnut chairs. We replaced 2 after the joints became loose. The one Vivian moved remained in use. I could have taken it home. I could have placed a plaque on it or kept it in my office as a symbol. I did not. It returned to the table. That was where it belonged. And that is my story. Some people will try to decide your worth by where they place you. They may move your name, your work, your voice, or your chair to the edge of the room and call the arrangement balanced. Let them reveal themselves. Then remember this. Belonging is not granted by the person who removes the chair. Dignity is what lets you bring it back. Tell me in the comments whether you would have stayed for dinner and write the word seat if you believe respect should be visible before the truth has to become public. Subscribe for more stories about quiet strength, clear boundaries, and the moment people finally see the person they underestimated.